Have you ever wondered why God created the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, knowing that Adam and Eve would eat from it? It's a profound question, and today, we're diving deep into this mystery to uncover the purpose and lessons behind it. Stay tuned. Think about this for a moment. We're talking about a God who is omniscient, omnipotent, and the creator of everything. Everything he makes is flawless, perfect. And yet, right in the heart of Eden, this idyllic, pristine paradise, he places one tree. Not just any tree, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A tree with extraordinary power, the power to open humanity's eyes to the very concepts of morality, to the ideas of right and wrong. But God doesn't just plant this tree and leave it there quietly. No. He points it out. He gives Adam and Eve explicit instructions: don't eat from this tree. If you do, you'll die. Simple enough, right? A clear boundary. And here's where it gets wild: God knew they were going to eat it anyway. Think about that for a second. The all-knowing creator of the universe, who can see the end from the beginning, sets up a scenario where failure is, well, inevitable. Doesn't that raise some questions? It's like designing the perfect maze and then placing an unavoidable trap at the very end, knowing every single person is going to fall into it. Is this an oversight by a perfect, infallible being? Or, is there something deeper at play here? A plan or purpose that challenges everything we've ever thought about the story of Eden? But hang on, we're not done yet. This tree isn't just some random backdrop. There's so much more to unpack. Let's dig deeper. Let's dive into a crucial detail here. Before eating the fruit, Adam and Eve didn't even understand the concept of right and wrong. Think about that for a moment. They were told, don't do this, but they had no frame of reference for what disobedience or sin even meant. How can you break a rule when you don't even know what it means to follow one? It's like handing a toddler a complex algebra equation and then punishing them for not solving it. Completely absurd, right? So why include the tree at all? Why set up this seemingly impossible scenario? Look at the nature of the command: don't eat from the tree. No explanation, no context, just a stark boundary with devastating consequences. And here's the kicker: God, being omniscient, knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew the serpent would show up. He knew the fruit would look irresistible. He knew precisely how Adam and Eve would react. So why not avoid the whole ordeal? Why not just leave the tree out entirely, keep Eden a perfect paradise, and spare humanity millennia of suffering? Unless, this suffering, this fall, was part of something bigger. A hidden purpose. What if, and hear me out on this, the tree of knowledge wasn't really about disobedience at all? What if it was about awakening? Think about it: before the fruit, Adam and Eve were innocent, almost childlike. What if the real story isn't about breaking a rule but about taking the first step into a larger, more complex understanding of existence? Before eating the fruit, Adam and Eve were childlike. Afterward, everything changed. They saw the world differently. They became aware of themselves, their choices, and their potential for both good and evil. They became fully human. So, was this a punishment? Or was it a transformation? Think about how the story frames God. On one hand, he's the loving creator, providing everything Adam and Eve could need. But on the other hand, he's setting up a scenario where failure is practically guaranteed. Why? Was it to teach them something? To introduce them to the complexities of free will? Or, and this is where it gets bold, was it to ensure that humanity's story didn't end in Eden? Instead of eternal innocence, was the goal to launch us on a journey of growth, struggle, and enlightenment? For centuries, we've been told the same story: the tree of knowledge was a test. A test of obedience. Disobey, and humanity gets punished. Simple, right? But when you stop and really think about it, the logic starts to crumble. Does it make sense for a perfect God to create such a fragile test for beings who didn't even understand the concept of failure? And then, to condemn them for breaking rules they couldn't fully grasp. What if there's more to this story than we've been told? What if this wasn't about punishment at all but about awakening? About humanity taking its first steps into a bigger, more complex existence? It wasn't just Adam and Eve who faced the consequences, it was every single one of their descendants. Forever. Does that sound like divine justice? Or does it feel more like a setup? Think about it, Adam and Eve were freshly created, essentially blank slates. No prior experience. No understanding of morality. No real comprehension of consequences. And yet, the first thing they're confronted with is a rule: don't eat from this one tree. Sounds simple, right? Until you realize, how could they possibly grasp the weight of this command? They didn't know what good and evil were. They didn't even understand what disobedience meant. So, what are we really punishing here? Innocent curiosity? A lack of understanding? And then there are the stakes. This isn't just, don't eat the fruit, or you'll get a slap on the wrist. No. It's, eat this, and you'll die. Not only that, but every generation of humanity will inherit the fallout. That's extreme, to say the least. The punishment feels astronomically disproportionate to the so-called crime. But maybe that's the point. Maybe this story isn't about punishment at all. Here's where it gets interesting. What if the whole punishment narrative is just surface level? What if the real story runs much, much deeper? What if the entire narrative is more than just a story? What if it's a tool, a carefully designed tale meant to keep people compliant? Afraid to question, afraid to think for themselves. Fear is a powerful tool, after all. For thousands of years, this story has been wielded to enforce obedience. Obedience to authority. Obedience to the idea that questioning is dangerous. Obedience to a system that thrives on fear to maintain control. Now, let's talk about the serpent. Traditionally, it's painted as the villain, the deceiver, the one who led humanity astray. But let's pause for a moment. What does the serpent actually do? It doesn't force Eve to eat the fruit. It doesn't lie either. What does it say? You will not surely die. Your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And then what happens? After they eat the fruit, their eyes are opened. They gain knowledge. They don't drop dead on the spot. In fact, everything the serpent says turns out to be true. So why, exactly, is the serpent the bad guy? What if the serpent isn't the villain at all? What if it's the liberator? The one who pushes humanity toward growth, toward awareness, toward autonomy. The serpent doesn't doom Adam and Eve to ignorance, it gives them the nudge they need to awaken to their full potential. What if the serpent isn't a deceiver, but a catalyst? Let's talk about transformation. And let's talk about the tree itself. It wasn't called the tree of sin. It wasn't called the tree of death. No, it was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Knowledge. So why would an all-powerful God, who supposedly values obedience, plant a tree like this right in the middle of paradise, knowing exactly what would happen? Unless, this wasn't about obedience at all. What if the tree was always meant to be part of the plan? What if the tree of knowledge was a doorway, a gateway out of innocence and into awareness? Out of blind naivety and into the beautiful, messy complexity of real life? Maybe Eden wasn't the endgame. Maybe humanity was never meant to stay in a state of childlike ignorance forever. Think about it, if God truly wanted to prevent humanity from eating the fruit, he could have made the tree inaccessible. He could have hidden it, or even removed it entirely. But he didn't. Instead, the tree was placed front and center, with a divine warning attached. That choice suggests something else entirely. Maybe the tree wasn't a trap. Maybe it was an invitation. An invitation to step into the unknown. To embrace knowledge. To take the first bold steps toward becoming truly human. Here's a question you might not have considered: what if the tree of knowledge of good and evil wasn't about rules or rebellion? What if it was the first step in humanity's evolution, a deliberate nudge toward self-awareness? Even the name of the tree tells us something important: knowledge. It wasn't the tree of sin. It wasn't the tree of rebellion. It was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And knowledge? Knowledge is transformative. It changes how you see the world, how you interact with it, and how you understand your own place in it. When Adam and Eve ate that fruit, they gained something they never had before: awareness. Awareness of their choices. Awareness of morality. Awareness of their individuality. Now, some might say, but wasn't that a bad thing? Didn't it lead to suffering? Sure, it did. But ask yourself this: is growth ever painless? Is awakening ever easy? Look at the human experience. The moments that define us, whether personally or collectively, are almost always moments of struggle. Moments where we face hard truths, where we step into the unknown. The fruit didn't just introduce Adam and Eve to suffering, it introduced them to the fullness of life. Because without the knowledge of good and evil, there's no real choice. No freedom. No progress. What if Eden wasn't paradise at all? Sure, it was perfect in a surface-level way: no pain, no struggle, no death. But it was also static. Unchanging. In Eden, Adam and Eve weren't truly living. They were existing in a world without challenge, without growth, and without the depth that comes from making real choices. Maybe the fruit wasn't the end of paradise. Maybe it was the beginning of what it means to be truly human. In Eden, Adam and Eve were essentially like children, shielded from the complexities of the world, unable to truly grow. Eating from the tree of knowledge didn't destroy paradise. It gave them the tools to create something new. Something dynamic. Something that allowed them to take control of their own destiny. Now, let's talk about the role of God in this story. Traditionally, God is painted as a disappointed parent, punishing his children for breaking the rules. But what if that's not the full picture? What if God placed the tree in Eden not as a test, but as a gift? A necessary stepping stone in humanity's journey toward becoming something greater. If you believe in an omniscient God, then he must have known exactly what would happen when he put that tree there. So why did he do it? Here's one possibility: because he wanted humanity to evolve. He didn't want us to remain in a perpetual state of innocence and ignorance. He wanted us to understand. To question. To choose. The tree wasn't a trap, it was a tool. A tool that pushed Adam and Eve to step out of their comfort zone, to leave the safety of Eden, and to face the challenges of the real world. And isn't that what we see time and time again in the human experience? Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Progress doesn't come without struggle. The story of the tree of knowledge isn't about failure. It's about transformation. Across ancient myths and traditions, we see a recurring theme: transformation often comes with risk and a leap into the unknown. Think of Prometheus stealing fire for humanity, or the Buddha leaving his palace in search of enlightenment. These stories share a common thread: growth requires sacrifice, and transformation demands discomfort. Now let's zero in on the concept of good and evil, because this is where things start to unravel. The tree of knowledge wasn't just about introducing humanity to morality. It was about defining what morality even means. Before Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they had no concept of right or wrong. Those ideas didn't exist for them. So, here's the question: if they didn't know what disobedience was, how could their actions even be considered wrong? How can you break a rule you don't fully understand? And here's an even bigger question: who decides what's good and what's evil? The moment Adam and Eve ate the fruit, their eyes were opened, they became aware of these concepts. But were they uncovering something universal? Or were they stepping into a framework that had been created for them? In other words, is good and evil an absolute truth? Or is it a construct, a lens through which we've been taught to see the world? The tree of knowledge didn't just give Adam and Eve the ability to see morality, it gave them the power to define it. That's huge. Because once you start defining good and evil for yourself, you're no longer just following someone else's rules. You're creating your own understanding of the world. This is where humanity's true journey begins. But why would an all-powerful God want this? Why set up a system where humans would inevitably challenge and redefine the very concepts he created? Maybe it's because morality isn't static. Maybe good and evil were never meant to be rigid laws carved in stone but dynamic ideas that evolve with us. Think about how morality works in the real world. What's considered good in one culture might be seen as evil in another. Even within a single society, ideas about right and wrong change over time. Slavery, for example, was once considered acceptable, but now it's universally condemned. Concepts like justice, fairness, and compassion have shifted dramatically throughout history. If morality is constantly evolving, could it be that the tree of knowledge wasn't a curse, but a gift? A catalyst for humanity to grow, adapt, and redefine what it means to be good and just? What if the tree of knowledge was a gift, a way for humanity to actively participate in shaping its own ethical framework? Let's dive into the phrase, good and evil. It's often presented as a black and white dichotomy, but is it really that simple? Life isn't so clear-cut. Most decisions aren't purely good or purely evil, they exist in shades of gray. And maybe that's the real lesson the tree imparted. It wasn't just about telling right from wrong, it was about understanding complexity, nuance, and the consequences of our choices. Think about the serpent's role in all of this. It didn't lie to Eve, it told her the truth. Eating the fruit would open her eyes. And when it did, she didn't gain some sinister curse. She gained the ability to see the world for what it really was, a place of both beauty and suffering, light and darkness, joy and pain. Isn't that what knowledge is? The ability to hold opposing truths and navigate between them. If good and evil are relative concepts, then maybe eating from the tree wasn't an act of defiance but an act of creation. By taking that step, Adam and Eve weren't just breaking a rule, they were participating in the act of defining morality itself. One key reason for the existence of the tree lies in the concept of free will. God created humans not as robots programmed to obey but as beings capable of making choices. Without the ability to choose, love, trust, and obedience lose their meaning. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil served as a test, a tangible representation of the freedom God granted humanity. It wasn't about setting them up to fail, it was about providing them the opportunity to succeed in a loving relationship with Him through obedience. The tree also symbolized God's authority and humanity's dependence on Him. By instructing Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree, God established a boundary, a reminder that while they had dominion over the earth, they were still under God's guidance. This command wasn't arbitrary. It was a call to trust His wisdom over their own understanding. The presence of the tree highlighted the balance of freedom with accountability. Though it may seem paradoxical, the act of eating from the tree set the stage for humanity's growth and redemption. When Adam and Eve disobeyed, it revealed the human tendency to stray from God. This wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning of God's greater plan for redemption through Jesus Christ. Without the fall, the depth of God's love, mercy, and justice might never have been fully revealed. The tree also introduced humanity to the knowledge of good and evil. While this knowledge came at a great cost, it allowed humans to understand morality deeply. This understanding became essential in making meaningful choices in life. God's intention wasn't for humans to suffer but to equip them to navigate a complex world. The knowledge of good and evil adds depth to our existence, emphasizing the importance of choosing good even when evil is an option. Finally, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil serves as a reminder of God's grace. Even after Adam and Eve sinned, God didn't abandon them. Instead, He clothed them, guided them, and initiated a plan for humanity's salvation. The story isn't just about the fall, it's about restoration. It shows that even when we fail, God's love and grace remain constant, providing hope for the future. Another layer to this story is the role of temptation. The serpent, representing Satan, was placed in the garden to tempt Adam and Eve. The existence of temptation was a critical part of the test. Temptation wasn't just about testing their obedience, it was also about revealing their character. God gave Adam and Eve the freedom to choose, but temptation introduced a challenge to that freedom. It served to teach us that choosing the right path often requires strength and wisdom. The consequences of Adam and Eve's disobedience were severe, but they also provided humanity with valuable lessons. When they ate from the tree, they experienced shame, fear, and separation from God. This moment represents how disobedience to God's will can lead to negative consequences, both personally and relationally. However, their story also serves as a warning, urging us to consider the long-term effects of our choices and to seek God's guidance in every situation. Knowledge, while often seen as a positive attribute, became a double-edged sword in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve's decision to eat from the tree wasn't just about breaking a command, but about pursuing knowledge prematurely. In the Bible, knowledge is often portrayed as something that requires maturity and wisdom. Adam and Eve's desire for wisdom outside of God's timing led to their fall, showing that wisdom must be sought in God's timing, not driven by self-interest. Many ask, if God knew what would happen, why allow it? The answer is that God's goodness is multidimensional. His goodness isn't simply about preventing harm, but about offering true freedom and the opportunity to choose love. Had God not allowed Adam and Eve the choice to sin, their love for him would have been forced. Real love, trust, and loyalty can only exist when there is the freedom to choose otherwise.
Welcome to Blessovia Science TV, where we take you on an exhilarating journey through the cosmos and unravel the mysteries of science. We are excited to offer you the opportunity to become a valued member of our ever-growing community of cosmic enthusiasts and knowledge seekers. Exclusive access to cosmic content. As a member of Blessovia Science TV, you will gain exclusive access to a treasure trove of cosmic content, including documentaries, interviews with leading scientists, space missions updates, and awe-inspiring visualizations of the universe, live Q, and sessions with experts. Your membership will grant you the chance to participate in live Q and sessions with renowned scientists, astronomers, and space explorers. Get your burning questions answered by those who push the boundaries of human knowledge. Embark on a journey that spans the cosmos and join us in unraveling the secrets of the universe. Become a Blessovia Science TV member today, and together we will reach for the stars. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and share. Don't forget to leave your comment.